Um, yeah, I think 100%. Just because we have 10 minutes, I also want to talk about
Hmm.
pricing, whether
Yeah.
you're pricing an online course or whether you're pricing yourself and how much you charge for a freelance gig or just a gig.
Hmm. Hmm.
I and I'm sure it depends on the situation, but I think a lot of people struggle with like, am I underselling myself or am I overselling myself to the point where I'm not going to get a gig? But I think
Yeah.
you kind of need a baseline to live.
It's tough. I'll say two things. Number one is when I started doing recording stuff, I would do songs for $30 on Craigslist. I will literally record anything for $30. I have the shittiest mics. I just need experience. And like eventually like that got me gigs, that got me connections. Like that's a great way to go if you've never stepped foot in whatever industry you're getting into, just to like get a portfolio, get clients, just get started. That's awesome. Um, with that being said, if you're already like a good drummer and if you guys are playing gigs already, that doesn't make any sense. You don't want to do stuff for free or for cheap because people just take advantage of you. So having like a bottom line will actually sell yourself better. Like if you turn down gigs because they don't pay well enough, that says something about you. You're like, oh, I'm good enough that I need like a minimum of $200 for a gig or something like that. And there's also this triangle thing. I don't know if you guys have messed with this before, but it's the 3 points of the triangle, and you can make it whatever you want. I think generally it's pay, exposure, and like experience. It might be a little bit different, but so if you don't get two of those three things, you don't take the gig. So if it's like great exposure and it's great pay, but you hate the band, you should do it. If it's like terrible pay and um, and the band, but the band is like really fun and you like them a lot and the exposure is great, like you should do it. If it's like $50 but it's like Bonnaroo, you should do it. You know what I mean? That's helpful. It just kind of frames things, and you can swap those corners out for whatever you want. You'd be like, do they serve food? Is there parking? Will I get to play loud?
Yeah, that's really interesting. And it's also like what's what's the market for it? If you're charging way
Yeah.
more or way less than all the other drummers around you or than whatever you're selling, then it kind of just like what's Mark Twain's quote? Like if you find yourself outside the masses, it's time to pause and reflect.
Oh,
Like
nice.
if your price is way out of what everyone else is doing, it's got to be like, well, he's either really, really good or he doesn't know what he's doing,
Yeah.
or both. Like, so it's
Money is
tricky.
such a long. It's money is so complicated. It's all fake.
It
It's like
is.
not a real thing. It's just people's priorities. But that's totally true. Yeah. What is it in Nashville? I'm assuming it's close to Boulder. Like around here, it's like $100 is like the average, I guess, for a gig. You go out and play for a couple hours.
Matt and Dan could answer that better than me. I honestly couldn't tell you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good. Um, I don't know, like my first two gigs that I had, I got like $300 each. So I like came home that night with like $600.
Nice.
Um, but
What
like
were they
last
like
night I
wedding
made
stuff?
like no, it was like on Broadway stuff,
Wow.
like
Yeah.
playing to like drunk people. Um, but like last night I made $200,
Yeah.
and that was like a 10 to 2 gig. Um,
Interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
it's cheap. It's like cheaper out here. I think because there's so much demand and it's like such a hot spot in Nashville. Like, there's a
yeah,
difference in price.
yeah. It's wild to me too. Like in California, I come from like the metalcore scene, like hardcore kids and stuff, and it's like, oh, you like played, you sold all your pre-sale tickets, like 80, you brought 80 kids to the show, but here's $50 for your whole band.
Yeah,
I'm like, what?
seriously.
That's just, that's kind of a
Oh,
problem with music as a whole sometimes.
it's wild.
Like,
It's really wild.
it's like there's no limit to how much money you can make in music, but it's also like sometimes it can suck. Sometimes. And it's just paying your dues. Sometimes there's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that. It's all whatever you're working
Yeah.
towards. Gotta decide if
Yeah.
it's
It's
worth it.
definitely. Yeah. And like, Max, like you're saying, it's like that like triangle thing is like I think it's like exposure, the hang, and the money. Like
Yeah.
if two of those things aren't there, like it's like I see that like when I go into a gig, I'm like, all right, like, or just like talking to somebody like on Facebook, like over Messenger or whatever. You're like, I know this hang isn't going to be good, but the money's going to be good, so I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, totally. That's hard too because I don't know. You have to be fair to people too. Like if you're charging one guy $200 to go play, and then just because it's your buddies, you're like, oh, I'll just like go hang out for $50. Like I don't know. That's fine to do, but we have to be conscious of that too. Like always just being
Yeah,
fair. Because if you don't charge somebody, you're being unfair to somebody else who has to pay.
right. Yeah, you got to be like also like really self-aware of what like you want to do as an artist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to go like try to get as much exposure as possible and get paid $50 for a 4-hour gig or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's not worth it.